Why did you write this book? What'd you get to it for?
I moved here in 1994,
Right.
and the World Cup was coming right before the tournament. There was a poll done of American fans, and they announced that soccer was the 67th most important sport in the United States. Tractor pulling, Rich Eisen, I crap you not, was number 66. And there's just been a steady... That World Cup was still, to this day, the best attended World Cup of all time. Americans love a circus. They love an excuse to daytime drink. They did feel, I think, the electric sense of connectivity that this tournament, 200 million people, give or take, watch the Super Bowl. 5 billion people watch the World Cup. There is a sense this is the last global billboard visible from outer space. And every single World Cup since, the joy of my life, the story of my life, is watching America become a proper football nation, falling in love with the sport, the Premier League, our women kicking ass, taking names, driving up the popularity also. And 2026, I wanted to write a book that allowed viewers who live that journey to relive their electric memories, because it is such a special tournament for a variety of reasons we can talk about. And those that haven't, to feel like they did and know they're Messi from their Maradona and be tournament ready by the time this thing kicks off.
Sure. What's your first World Cup memory, Roger?
I was in England because, I love America more than Kenny Powers. But viewers, I am actually from England, 7 years of age, Argentina 1978. And I watched English football. There was no live football in those days. We didn't know anything. Football was played by balding men on muddy pitches. They just lived to kick the crap out of each other, then go and have a cigarette and a pint at halftime in a locker room while the fans tried to make each other bleed. That's what football was. I was very proud of our local team. And then we saw Argentina, the first game I'd ever seen, huge stadia, sun. It took me a while to realize what that big kind of orb in the sky was. I was like, what is that colourful thing? Why does it look so uncold there? And then the teams came on, Rich, and the stadium exploded in a burst of confetti from the bleachers. Thousands of toilet rolls cascaded down. And I turned to my dad and I said, oh my God, this thing, football, which is just a pleasure that hurts. That's the phrase that we all talk about in England. It can be joyful. And I was hooked from that very moment.
No kidding. So I'm just reading this book with the essays and throughout World Cup to World Cup you go. I guess which do you think was the greatest World Cup? And the reason why I asked that is we just had, obviously here in America, arguably one of the greatest World Series that we saw this past year. The last couple of Super Bowls, not so much, but in recent years there were Super Bowls that you could peg like that's the best one. Which tournament-wise do you think was a standout?
Oh, well, you're asking me right after the 2022 World Cup final in which Lionel Messi, that tiny little joyful Ewok, went head-to-head with Kylian Mbappe. It was like football ripped from Plato's cave. It was. I don't like to be hyperbolic, Rich, you know that. But it was like watching Homer write the Odyssey in real life time with millions of people watching along around the planet. Pretty bloody good cliffhanger to end on, watching that tiny little man who looks like he's just strolled out of your local Supercuts. There he is. Just become in a second, become immortal. After failing 4 times, leaving crying like Prince, this is what it sounds like when doves cry, finally winning to cement his status as the greatest ever, and becoming in that second immortal. By the way, not just as an athlete. It was a joy last night. I was on stage in Houston celebrating the World Cup coming there with Hakeem Olajuwon, who I was shaking to be on the same stage as, and the magical J.J. Watt. Those are demigod athletes. But Lionel Messi in that moment became part of his nation's history, bona fide in their Argentinian human civilization. So that was a pretty great ending. But for me, the joy of the World Cup, Rich, is that when two teams take the field, their nation's histories, politics, cultures take the field alongside them. That's what gives this tournament the depth that I think no other has. Walt Whitman would say it contains multitudes. So honestly, every single game, every single moment, and with the world in the chaos that it is right now, that sense of electric global connectivity, positive, connectivity that this thing offers. There's no bad World Cup. There's really only positive memories that are being made. And I wish, oh my Lord, the same for this one that's fast coming towards us.
Hey, you made it all the way to the end. Thanks for that. Check us out every single day streaming live on Disney Plus and the ESPN app 12 to 3 Eastern.